of us have seen mushroom logs for sale at garden shows or on the internet. Today we're visiting Doug and Sandra Williams at Lost Creek Mushroom Farm to learn how these logs are produced. Well, the process really starts in the winter, right? When you cut the logs down?
Right, we want to cut them when the sap is down and the logs, the trees themselves have gone dormant for the winter.
And that keeps the bark on, otherwise the bark solution can peel
Right,
off.
the sap has to be totally down, otherwise it'll just slip and slide and eventually fall off.
Okay, and then the next step is to prepare the holes, right?
That's right, and drill the holes. And we now have angle grinders. We used to use drills. We started off with a regular home drill and it took about 20 minutes a log. And then we went to super high speed drills designed for mushroom production, and we could do like this, broop, broop, broop,
Real
broop,
fast.
really fast, and but they were hard to maintain and we couldn't get parts. So now we are using angle grinders with special bits, and the whole industry has sort of come up a notch because of that.
Excellent. And then once the holes are drilled, you're going to fill them with an inoculum that has, you call it spawn, right? So this has the sawdust.
And a grain, and a grain to feed the spores. They put the spores in here, and it's under very controlled conditions, sterile with certain amounts of water and certain amounts of heat for certain amounts of time.
Okay. So go ahead and show us how you inoculate the logs.
And this is Sherri Bludnick, who has been with us for many years. We couldn't run the farm without her.
And you're just packing those holes full of the spawn.
Right, the spawn, And we do, as far as farms go, because we sell the gift logs and we're not raising mushrooms on a continual basis, we do between 1,000 and 1,500. Many people put in 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 a year.
Logs.
Logs,
Wow.
right,
Okay.
for mushroom production. Okay. Now
So once it's filled, then what's the next step?
all right, then the next step is to take it down here, and then we seal these holes with wax.
Okay.
Hot, this is food grade cheese wax. And this kills any bacteria that's on the top, and it seals it and helps protect it from insects.
Okay. I imagine it would keep it from drying out as well.
Yes, And the mycelia, which is the growth.
The vegetative growth.
Yes, thank you. The vegetative growth will start at these holes and spread out. And the holes are long this way, but they're short across, like this, because, of course, the xylem and phloem.
So the mycelia spreads kind of through those openings of the xylem and phloem.
And when it does it, then we it'll connect all the way through the log, and that's called colonization. But that takes about 8 to 12 months, depending on the weather and the moisture, the kind of wood and the kind of spawn.
And so from here, you'll put them out, you have some tarps that you cover them with, stack them, and that's where you allow them to colonize.
Right, and that's called the incubation period or the spawn run period.
So Sandra, once they've gone through their colonization phase, you can start to see the mycelium, this white growth, and that's their vegetative growth. What happens then?
Well, then we want to separate the logs and take them apart, because the mycelia growing here is very, very aggressive. If you had it on a piece of furniture or on the floor, it could grow right into the floor.
So the logs would kind of grow together.
Right, so it'll come, instead of producing a mushroom, then it'll come out the sides here, and
we
then
can see a little bit of that.
And glue the logs together. So we separate them so they don't stick. And anytime we see this, we know that a log is ready and willing to fruit.
Okay, so you bring them into your shade house then and have them kind of lined up so there's some space between them here. And this is where they stay until you're ready to ship them. Right?
That's right, and we let nature fruit them.
Okay.
And periodically we have orders from grocery stores, and so we will soak them in our soaking tank. And it's a refrigerated milk tank.
Okay.
It's adaptive agriculture.
So it's kind of cold water,
Right.
and then you bring them out into the ambient temperature,
Right.
and that temperature
Right.
change and the water tell the mushrooms go ahead and start producing fruit.
That's right. And we
Okay.
call it shocking and fooling the log.
Okay.
We fool the log into thinking it's spring or summer.
Now the ones that you are holding to ship out, do you keep those from fruiting?
We want them to fruit at least once because it gets the cycle started.
Okay.
And we like to send them and say, look for signs on your log. And it would be stem holes or the mushrooms themselves sometimes, or pins, which are tiny little buds that start. They look like outie belly buttons.
And that tells us our log is ready to produce.
That's right.
Okay. And for shipping purposes and the logs you sell online, they are cut into smaller sections like we have here.
Right. We have shroomies, which are 5-6 inches in that range. We have a 10-inch kit called the single log. We have the Ma and Pa kit, which is 2 10-inch logs, and then we have a 14-inch log with its own soaking tray.
Okay.
Yeah, because 14 inches is too big to fit in the sink.
Yeah. Okay. Now the Ma and Pa kit is 2 logs together. Tell me about that.
When one log fruits by itself, it does okay. But when it's with another log, it will produce more mushrooms. So with a 2-log kit, you can get more mushrooms per fruiting, or you can fruit them alternately
Okay.
and have mushrooms every month instead of mushrooms every 2 months.
Now once we get these kits in our homes, what do we do with them to keep them productive?
You give them maintenance soaks, just like you do your plants. You soak it in non-chlorinated water because, you know, chlorinated water
Can
is
kill things,
antifungal. So you soak them in non-chlorinated room temperature water. And then
Okay.
every 2 months you soak them in non-chlorinated ice water.
Okay.
And that's what triggers the fruiting. And these small logs, you can put them in your fridge.
Well, this is a really fascinating business, and you said mushrooms are in demand, right?
Oh, yes, yes. We ran out of logs last summer because we were so busy, and we tried to buy more logs from other log growers, and nobody would sell them because mushroom sales were so high that they didn't want to part with any of their logs.
So it's a good business for young entrepreneurs.
Yes,
Yeah.
low fat.
Amazing, very nutritious.
Yes, and
wonderful health benefits.
And and we think more people ought to be growing more shiitakes.
Well, thank you so much. It's been really fascinating.
Thank you, Kim. We love mushrooms, and we want other people to love them too.
Joining me now is Doug, who's going to show us how to harvest. Doug, how do we know when the mushrooms are ready to be harvested?
Well, generally, you want to harvest them when they're about 3 to 5 inches in diameter.
Okay.
And when the caps, before the caps get leathery, and if they're too wet, you can tell by the coldness of them. And when I harvest them, a lot of times you can just twist them off with your
Okay.
hand, and sometimes they won't twist, and I think that's a temperature thing. So I usually just carry a knife with me that has a serrated edge, and I'll go ahead and just cut it off
Show us.
at the base like that, and I try to get all of the mushroom cut so that nothing is exposed beyond the surface of the wood. And so this is a real pretty, good-looking mushroom.
They're actually very beautiful.
They are. They are.
And I could feel it's still nice and cold.
It's cold. I might have waited a little bit longer till the afternoon, till it dried out a little bit more before I picked it, but this is still okay.
But I noticed you keep it in a paper bag so that it can continue to dry a little bit.
Yeah, I'll keep it in the bag and it'll continue to dry out some. So, yeah.
And the ones that have dried and gotten leathery, you can just let those dry out and then use them reconstituted later.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll dry them on down. And it's really best if you can let them dry on the log.
Okay.
Because when you dry them on the log, then you're getting all that vitamin D from the sun. And then go ahead, and I generally will cut the stems off, and a lot of times then when I dry them, I'll turn them upside down. And then that way the gills will get all that sunlight and vitamin D. So that's one thing that you can do. And then you can take them and you can either reconstitute them when you want to use them. You can grind them up and put them into soups for flavoring. So, you know, or you can just reconstitute them. It'll take about 20 minutes of just room temperature water, and then you can cook with them like they're like a regular
Like a
mushroom.
fresh one.
So.
All right. Well, thank you, Doug.
All right. Well, you're welcome.